and James Grande.
What is going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA Playbook Show here in the Thursday, third main slate of the NBA season. A little two-gamer here on a Thursday. Something we're probably going to get used to, these smaller Thursday slates throughout the year. We got Philadelphia going up against Milwaukee. We have Phoenix taking on LA this evening. My friend James, how are we doing?
Happy Thursday, John. Doing all right. I just said before I hopped on air, I'm having a 5 o'clock coffee. So in case you need to know how my day's going, nothing like a coffee at 5 p.m.
Oh, when you got a toddler and a newborn, I'm sure that's what happens, right?
Yeah. Maybe one day you'll experience the 5 o'clock coffee because of that same thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a good day, nice little slate. Again, it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be a lot of these smaller slates on the TNT games. At least we're not getting who's gonna be a bad TNT team this year, like the
Spurs,
the Wizards. No, the Spurs are gonna be great because as long as Wemby's staying out of foul trouble.
Victor Wembanyama, 22 minutes, right?
Well, there was foul trouble, and then Adam Silver definitely called a meeting and said, hey, if you foul this mother effer out right now, you guys don't have a job tomorrow. So he was able to play like the rest of the fourth, and he went on that little run.
He went on a nice run. He finished with 15 actual. So
yeah, even though I sent you 99% of the bets yesterday were on the over for his props, and nothing hit.
Yeah, like I said, Vegas built another casino last week when the with the Bijan Robinson props, and now they're they're building more on the back of Victor Wembanyama last night. So yeah, for sure. We got two games here. It's gonna be a little bit of a quick show. Appreciate those of you who are starting to roll in here. If you do have any questions today, again, feel free to throw them in the chat. James and I happy to answer those for you. The notable news that's here today is that Phoenix comes into this one, no Devin Booker, no Bradley Beal. So if you go look at our updated rostership numbers over at Fantasy Alarm for tonight's NBA slate, you will see that 90% of the field is currently projected to be on Kevin Durant.
Is that a lot?
It's a two-game slate. There's no Booker. There's no Beal. 90%. Is this live right now on a Thursday? Yeah, man, we are live. We are live on Thursday. What's up, Derek?
Derek, what's going on? We're also live every weekday ending in day.
Yeah,
also,
Monday through Friday. We do lives, 5 o'clock Eastern time, breaking down slates, 2 games. I think the only one we won't do is a 1 game. So, Derek, if you got a question for this 2 game, feel free to throw it down. We also do an NBA DFS preview show that we record the night before. It's out around like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. You can watch that throughout the day. Get your primer. Get our first take on the slate here. Our title says Wednesday. Did we mess up the title today?
Yeah, it's probably me. That was me.
Does it?
That's on me. I'll take that. That's me. That's on me.
Okay. Well, I see October 26th. That's today. Never mind. Just refresh. That's fine.
Come on, Derek. You're throwing us off here.
James is on a coffee at 5 o'clock on a Friday or on a Thursday. I think it's Friday. On Thursday.
Dude,
here.
We are
we're all over the place. You know why we're all over the place here? Because there's nobody playing for Phoenix today. Their 2 biggest players are out. So again, everybody's playing Kevin Durant. We'll go over the lineups. We'll break down the positions. We'll talk about the spreads and all the good stuff. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to get them in chat. Talk us up. Let us know what you guys are thinking, what you're feeling. What plays do you guys feel like playing tonight? If you have any props tonight, let us know. We'll talk some player props. We'll talk some betting odds with all of you here. We're going to be around probably for the next 30 to 45 minutes, getting you guys ready for this evening's slate. So, James, Booker, Beal, obviously out. We got the report earlier today as well that Harden tried to board the team plane and was told, no, thank you, sir. We don't need your company on this trip to Milwaukee, and was sent home. So, obviously, no James Harden today. I don't know where Philly's next game is, but probably if it's on the road, no James Harden then either.
So they actually, Woj just put out a tweet, okay? And it's a nationally televised game tonight, John.
Yeah.
And James Harden is considered a star player because of the All-Star game thing. So they need to provide the league with a valid explanation. Not that the league must not be watching anything going on, right? Because why would they? They don't.
Right.
Who knows? James Harden hasn't been in the news lately at all. So
it's because he texted the owner "F you."
Yes, that's correct. That is correct. That is the last text Daryl Morey has gotten from James Harden.
Imagine texting your boss "F you" and then showing up on the day the plane's taken. I was like, "Hey guys, what's going on? I'm ready to roll and get paid." And he's like, yeah, no thanks. Go.
What if? And this could be genius on Harden. He's about to get Philly fined because Philly just told him. So? Well, he reported to the team.
True. If he just keeps showing up and they don't play him, then they get suspended.
Dude, he's reporting to the team. He can say, "Well, I'm not hurt. I'm reporting to the team." What are they going to do? They're going to have to say, like, "Well, I guess we're just going to have to fine you." This is James Harden is maybe a genius.
Could be.
If we start seeing fines flying from Philly, maybe genius. But
the fat suit was pretty genius of him as well. So. You never know. Regardless, these are the players that aren't going to be in tonight. Let's talk about some players that are going to be in tonight, James. How's that
sound? I like that idea.
You like that idea? All right, let's dump in then to this DraftKings main slate for everybody here. Breaking it all down, starting off at the point guard spot. We're going position by position for this one. A couple of players, as we know, dual positional eligibility. Dame Lillard's at $9,000. Tyrese Maxey's $7,500. D'Angelo Russell, $55. D'Anthony Melton, $53. Cam Payne, $49. Pat Bev, $45. Gabe Vincent, $37. Goodwin, $32. So those are the likely point guards that actually see the floor here this evening. Now, again, handful of those guys also have shooting guard eligibility here this evening. We talked a lot about Tyrese Maxey. He's the cover of today's playbook. Sean Mitchell put that together for everybody. One of our favorite plays of this slate. Going to be super popular, but without James Harden, you had the numbers, Grande. Some big-time production from Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, look, we saw the breakout from Tyrese Maxey a lot last year, and he even had it during his time with James Harden, but it was obviously to another level without Harden. He averaged almost 25 points per game in over 13 meetings, and over 8 of 13 of them he scored 25. So like more often than not, he was putting the ball in the bucket. And you got to think like, well, we've seen it time again. Like Embiid is great, but he's always had like a Robin type of player, right? Mm-hmm. James Harden has been there, Maxey when Harden wasn't. And Tyrese Maxey's the perfect pick and roll, pick and pop guy. This is a guy who, I mean, went from not being able to shoot to a 43% 3-point shooter last year, like literally top of the league type. He's an elite scorer. So of the point guard position, like he's my favorite to get to. Now, favorite to get to aside, Jordan Goodwin is the guy that everyone's going to gravitate to the most. He's $3,500. Could draw a start here. Whether or not he starts isn't, I would say, relevant here. He was in the rotation with Devin Booker, played 14 minutes. And now Devin Booker, who played 37 minutes and took 21 shots, is not there, right? So, like, yeah, Eric Gordon's probably going to do a little ball handling. But they don't have anything else, like, in terms of ball handling. Like, it's Jordan Goodwin season, John. And
we saw obviously the end of season numbers for him last year with the Wizards, and he was putting up some pretty big numbers here. Now Kevin Durant's still going to take a whole bunch of shots, but if you are looking on that team now, it's like, all right, who's the most likely to be, pick up the offensive slack? Josh Okogie last year looked really good when Devin Booker was out of the lineup. Eric Gordon, we know, has always been an offensive threat, but I mean, if Goodwin's going to re-enter the lineup, and I don't know if we have an official lineup yet for Philly or not, or Phoenix rather, or not. I mean, definitely going to be some potential offensive upside. Plus, do the Lakers run away with this game? Does Kevin Durant even play a full 30? I mean, what's your overall thoughts on just how this game ends up playing out?
I mean, like, I get that, and that was a conversation in the Fantasy Alarm Discord as well earlier today with Sean Mitchell, who did the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS playbook. You can catch that on fantasyalarm.com. But and I get like the narrative behind that. I also think like Phoenix is not a bad overall team. And I think we saw that. Like Okogie is better than I think people realize, especially how aggressive he is offensive rebounding. 4 offensive rebounds in that first game. Nurkic is really good big double-double. We're not going to see Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon shoot 4 of 22 combined as well. So, I think the Lakers still have a lot of question marks themselves. Like, Anthony Davis, is he going to bounce back after that first game? Are the Lakers going to extend LeBron past 30 minutes? Can Taurean Prince shoot 90% from the floor again? I would say, as much as I think, I understand it, Lakers are home, their first home game, whatever. I still think this is competitive. I mean, even when you look at the lines, opened at 1.5, and then the news broke, it's only at 6.5, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's still a competitive game through and through. So I don't think that this game, in terms of like game script, blows out. Could I see a scenario? Sure. If it does, I will say this, John. If I'm a MME player, which is max multi-enter, and I'm playing 20 to 150 lineups, and you do think game script comes into play in a blowout, I would take maybe a flyer on someone like Saben Lee at 3K, who is going to maybe back up. Like, if Goodwin starts, Saben Lee is going to be the direct backup, I would say. I would say that's like a pretty safe bet. So maybe a dart on Saben Lee. But, I mean, even if the game blows out, Jordan Goodwin's going to be on the floor. What are they going to – oh, we need to get Goodwin off the floor because we don't want to risk injury. You're already your third string point guard when everyone's healthy. So, I don't think that this game blows out. I think it stays competitive. Russell at 55 makes for a good price because of that. He just didn't shoot the ball well in that first game. 4 for 12 from the floor. So yeah, I mean, personally, I don't know how. What do you agree? What's your game script take?
I mean, I think it's interesting because we have the perception of a team losing 2 big star players, and the line did move 5 points.
Sure,
that's a huge move, right? Sure. 6.5 still feels like a number that this game could get out of hand. But we talk about the NBA all the time. Like, that's a lot of points in the NBA. Like, yes, there are teams that get blown out. We see it all the time. Last night again, like the Wizards lost by like 20, right? So it's not out of the question for it to happen. But the NBA is a game of runs. If they do bench the Lakers starters in like the 4th, you could just as well see the Phoenix starters essentially, because that's what's going to be in there instead of their backups. You're going to be playing the whole game. They could make a run late and cover the spread here. I also think it's going to be kind of interesting to see the value of Jusuf Nurkic here tonight. A guy that we know has offensive talent, but hasn't always been asked to like be an offensive player. 14 and 14, I think it was last night, or double there in game 1. Could be asked to shoot more. Could see the offensive flow through him a little bit more. He's not a great passer, but he's not a terrible passer. It could be a guy that kind of fills out the box score. So while everybody's looking at Joel Embiid here this evening, or Giannis at your center spot, Jusuf Nurkic going up against Anthony Davis is a matchup to watch. We saw Jokic really have no trouble against AD on the offensive end. You could see Nurkic bully his way against Davis here tonight as well.
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of how I look at it personally, John. And even in a game, like you look at the Suns in game 1, I mean, Kevin Durant was 7 of 22 from the floor, and they beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
In Golden State, a place where they did lose last year. So I like this Suns team overall. I think that this game is going to be competitive. I know you're not wrong with the points moving. Like, that's a lot of points, but
anytime a line moves 5, that's a pretty drastic shift there. But again, when we're talking about the point guard spot, Goodwin, again, a guy that's projected to be one of the highest rostered overall players on the day. Question from our guy Albert wants to know DeAnthony Melton. We'll just move on over to shooting guard because dual positional eligibility kind of covers both guard spots here with a lot of the guys that are point guard.
We didn't really touch. Did you like Lillard? Would you play him?
No, I'm not going to play Lillard.
I would if I'm playing.
If I'm playing a free max, maybe I have one share, but he's not a single lineup guy for me.
Yeah, he's not a single lineup guy for me either. But interesting in tournaments if you're max entering.
Yeah, I mean he'll be your pivot off of Durant probably tonight, or I guess I don't know AD or something like that. Nobody's playing Anthony Davis tonight. He's like 6%, 5%. No one's in on that spot. But as I mentioned, a lot of these point guards also have shooting guard eligibility. Albert wants to know our thoughts on DeAnthony Melton here tonight.
Yeah, so I think there's one of 2 ways the Philly lineup looks. And one of them includes Melton's starting lineup, and one of them doesn't. and that would probably mean Patrick Beverley starts. I hope D'Anthony Melton starts because he's looked so good in the preseason. And you and I have been screaming from the rooftops about this guy. He's really good offensively, and he's really good defensively. Like, always accruing defensive stats. I mean, for a guy, he played 27 minutes a game and averaged 2.2 steals and blocks per game.
Yeah, great FanDuel player.
Great FanDuel player. But honestly, it's a great DraftKings price, $5,300. I love D'Anthony Melton here. I'm very high on him. So it's like one of those things. Like, I don't necessarily mind if he comes off the bench because maybe that depresses his ownership, but I would feel much more comfortable knowing that he was in the starting lineup. So I suspect he starts over Beverley, but that hasn't been anything official yet. So we'll see. I like him whether he starts or not, though.
Sure. We're not playing Middleton tonight. Going to be limited. The price tag for him feels a little bit too much for a guy that may play 20 minutes tonight. So I'm just not going there. IC3 says he has a lot of Melton. Yeah. The thing about these 2-game slates is, like, even if Melton doesn't start, he's in the rotation.
Yes.
So
yes.
I mean, he's not a fringe guy. He's going to be out there. He's going to play. So you could probably count on him. With us not being in on Middleton here, what are your thoughts on Malik Beasley here this evening?
I don't know. It's a tough, he's shot really poorly in the preseason. And I think what we said about Malik Beasley is just going to always be Malik Beasley. If he makes shots, he can make shots in bunches and win you a lot of money. And then he can completely shoot himself off the floor. So I think largely that's going to be what it's going to be this year. He's going to shoot himself off or on the floor. Like, he's going to stay on.
This was the epic stretch last year. When he was with, I think it was Utah, just 6 of 11, 6 of 13, 6 of 13, 5 of 12, 10 of 17, 10 of 18. At 3,900 all the way at the 43, he was giving you 10x for like a week. And then he popped it back up 55, 28, 26, 26. But then he had a stretch down here where he just missed everything. 17, 14, 19. The big issue there. Brandon Katz saying Beasley, no value. All he does is score. So here's the thing, though. It's a 2-game slate, Brandon. So you're looking at ceilings and floors of players. If Malik Beasley was a guy that played tonight and had one of those hot scoring nights and he got you 20 fantasy points, I mean, it could be enough in an optimal lineup at 5K to get it done for you. I hear what you're saying. He definitely is not a guy that gets out there and does much else than score. But again, we're talking about a guy that did last year at times in minutes where he was able to play 20 minutes here, gave you 23 fantasy points because he just went off for 19, 0, 0, and 0. But he hit 5 threes. So if he's going to give you 23 fantasy points on a 2-game slate, I mean, who's to say that he doesn't give you a little bit of value back? The issue is, and it's not really an issue, and we're going to talk about it, is that all the Phoenix guys are cheap, and they're cheaper than him. So you're going to look at a lot of people playing a Kogi, Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen tonight instead of playing a Malik Beasley, obviously. So if you're going to be a little bit different in terms of rostership this evening and hope that Grayson Allen goes ice cold from the floor or like that, Beasley could pop. Again, we're talking about 2-game slate. You got to throw lottery tickets out there. If this is a larger slate, I would agree with you. He wouldn't even be on our radar, but he's going to be on the floor tonight. He's going to play, and he's a guy that is not afraid to shoot. So if he gets some shots off tonight and hits those buckets, he could go off a little bit.
On cue with what you said, Derek pops in and talks about, but that is right there what Derek said. Not wrong. I'll lead with that. Not a wrong way to think, but that's what everyone's thinking. Like what you just said. Immediately, we're going to gravitate to the Phoenix value. But what you said is important. If you're a tournament player, is there a logical pivot? Is there a smart pivot? Is there a pivot that you can make? Because everybody is playing Phoenix. Is Malik Beasley hitting 5 threes tonight? Disagree. Melton is the same price as yeah, and we just said we like Melton more, but all we're talking about realistically is pivots away from Phoenix. Everyone's playing Phoenix. It's not like D'Anthony Melton isn't going to be low owned either. He's going to be a higher owned rostered player.
Yeah, we spent like 10 minutes talking about Melton right before.
I know.
We're 100% in agreement with you, Brandon. Just mentioning other plays, right? Again, there's more people are going to be in on Melton. More people are going to be in on the Phoenix guys. We agree 100%. Love the Anthony Melton. Love the ability that he does both defensively. Not as great as a scoring option, but can score to the basketball a little bit more here. But again, we're talking about the fact that Melton we know is going to be limited. Yep. Beasley's going to be the guy that's going to get some playing time because of those minutes restrictions there on Middleton. So, if you're playing multi-entry tournaments, you're going to vary your rostership around. All of the chalk is going here to Phoenix. So being different is just throwing out a name of a guy that could go out there, get hot from the floor like he does at times during his career, and pop for 20, 25 fantasy points. So we're in agreement. We're on the same play. Just, a little different way to go about it. Yep. Cortac Chronicles wants to know our thoughts on Yuta.
I like him. I like him as a kind of a GPP pivot. He was in the rotation with Devin Booker. We saw Yuta get 18 minutes off the bench. And I think that was kind of like, what were they going to do? Because they have Nasir Little and they have Keita Bates-Diop. Like, there was a couple options. Yuta was the guy. Yuta was also like handpicked by Kevin Durant. Like they played together in Brooklyn. He likes Kevin Durant likes Yuta Watanabe. So I think it's definitely a viable approach. And if you do have game script on your mind, like Yuta's going to be, if there is a blowout, like Yuta's also going to be in that scenario. So I like him for tournaments. To your question, he's about 13% projected rostership over on FantasyAlarm.com right now. So, that's low owned for that's a difference maker on a small slate.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we played Saric the other day, kind of like in a spot where the value we thought was going to be there. Not a lot of people were in on the Saric play. He was able to kind of fill out the stat sheet like we thought he would and return enough on the small slate to kind of get us to where we were looking to be here. And to the chat there, we're in agreement, Brandon. Again, yeah, we're in on Melton. We're not arguing.
We talked about him.
Not arguing the point. 100%. We're just got to throw some different potentials out there. If you're playing 150, everybody's playing the Phoenix guys here. Sean saying, look at the Lakers bench. I mean, I like the Lakers bench here too. Gabe Vincent, we know, came off the bench for them. We know what he could be a spark plug, as we saw during his time with Miami, coming off their bench and even starting for them. Definitely some offensive upside if this game gets blown out. You'll see a quick pull probably on LeBron that they're already looking to limit him. D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Davis. And then that means some of these bench guys for LA on a smaller slate are going to get some additional run. So, Vincent certainly is one that stands out. We commented how like Max Christie didn't really play at all the other day. Could be someone that in a blowout finds himself maybe playing a little bit more, where the Lakers here look more, again, at their starting lineup, played Taurean Prince, didn't really give Hachimura a lot of options here. Started with Jackson Hayes, then went to Christian Wood off their bench. So definitely some bench guys in LA that could find some value for sure.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, and I think Vincent is obviously, we saw 21 minutes out of him off the bench, and he's like set in stone. I like that call. The only thing I'd be worried about for the Lakers is Darvin Ham before the year basically said he's going to play 10 to 11 guys every night. And that's kind of in line with what happened game one. Like, a lot of guys played and LeBron was limited, and like that obviously bodes well. I wouldn't be surprised if like situations where, if Cam Reddish doesn't play well, he just goes right to Max Christie or vice versa, right? So that's the only thing I would tread a little lighter on, especially with the wings. There's a lot of different directions that he could go. And like, if we play Reddish, who played 18 minutes, yeah, that's cool. Who's to say Max Christie isn't the guy off the bench the next game? That's the only thing I think. Before I like dive fully into a Lakers bench situation, outside of like Gabe Vincent, who is pretty surefire backup point guard, Rui Hachimura, pretty surefire backup big. Everything else is very murky. That's the only thing I would say. But sometimes in tournaments we have to take shots, so not the worst idea.
No, and again, I like Christian Wood. Whenever he's been given the opportunity to play, he's largely been a productive player, but you got to get that consistency from him. And nobody's playing the Lakers front court here. No. Everybody's more so looking at this Philly Milwaukee matchup rather. If you had to pick one, Embiid or Giannis here this evening, where do you go, James?
I'd probably go Giannis, but it's close. Multi-position eligibility, 60 fantasy points per game against them last year. There's no like wrong answer. If you were playing multiple lineups, you can stack them. Probably get Kevin Durant, especially because all the Phoenix value is there as well. Yeah. So I would lean Giannis, but I think it's splitting hairs.
Yeah, those of you who are new to the show, we let off talking about some rostership projections again over at Fantasy Alarm. If you're an All-Pro member, you get access to our rostership projections on the night. Even I'm like, this feels maybe a little bit too strong, but we have like 89% projected rostership on Kevin Durant here this evening at $8,900. Again, just the fact that there's nobody in Phoenix, figure he's just going to be a guy that's taking all the shots here. And he's under 9K. So nobody's playing LeBron, and no one's really playing Anthony Davis at those price points. They're playing Kevin Durant tonight.
Doesn't necessarily surprise me. I think, the one thing and we said it on the opening night slate, nobody was playing those guys either. And I know you and I both took shots on in a lineup with Anthony Davis. I had a LeBron lineup. It's sometimes worth taking shots and starts. Not saying fading Durant is the right move, but like stacking, right, with your Kevin Durant lineups. Maybe playing an Anthony Davis loan, because let's face it, Anthony Davis before an injury last year was the Lakers' best player. Like to start the year, he was the Lakers' best player. He had an incredible start to last year, had a really good stretch in November, and then injuries per usual. But like he's a 10K player. Like he's probably priced with Giannis and Embiid more often than he's not, and he's $1,400 and $1,500 cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think because this is a small slate, we're getting discounted pricing. We talk about this a lot.
Yep.
So Embiid and Giannis for sure is usually an 11K plus player. Embiid sort of generally hovers around that spot, but because it's only 2 games, everybody's basically getting $1,000 discount. It feels like when it comes to this. And Brandon in here talking about Maxey. Yeah, we let off the show today basically saying he's our favorite player on the board. Sean Mitchell was in the chat earlier. He did the playbook today. Cover of today's NBA DFS playbook is Tyrese Maxey, and I'm with you. I'll take all of its props. This morning on the show, we did the RT DFS pick'em play. We took the over Maxey points in this one. I think it was 21 or 22 and a half.
Yep.
We were in on the over there. So I'm 100% with you getting Maxey in the lineup today. But again, like so's the field. This is a good chalk example. More than happy to play all the Maxey, more than happy to play all the Durant and kind of figure out our lineups kind of going from there. Anybody that we didn't really dive into yet, James, that maybe you have an eye on here this evening?
Yeah, so I like Kelly Oubre off the 76ers bench. What do we know about Nick Nurse? Nick Nurse, during his time with Philly or during his time with Toronto, plays his starters a lot, but he has like 7-man rotations, and those players off the bench play. Like Gary Trent was an example of a guy that he used off the bench. They got a lot of run, and Kelly Oubre was Chris Boucher. Yeah, I mean, he played 0 minutes again last night. So I think Chris Boucher officially just
send him back to the G League where he can dominate.
Yeah, where he could. Yeah. But Oubre looked really good in the preseason, and I think he, not just because he's lefty, kind of like fits the Harden scoring like area that they need, because when they turned to the bench, like they did have Harden or Maxey staggered with Embiid, right? And we've seen that a ton this year. We've seen every team stagger their stars, and Kelly Oubre with the second unit is going to lead the team probably in scoring. If it's him and Maxey probably running the second unit, I'd assume, or him and Embiid running the second unit. So I like Kelly Oubre a little bit, 5,700. I like the position eligibility too. Obviously, the goated eligibility. And then look, everyone's gonna play Josh Okogie. That's fine, perfectly fine with it. Everyone's gonna play Eric Gordon. I was really high on Eric Gordon the other night, and I still loved it. He took 100 shots. He just didn't make them. You want to see the guys you are using take 1,000,000 shots. I will say this: nobody is going to play. I bet you. I don't know. I haven't looked at the ownership on Grayson Allen. But I bet you he's the lowest owned of all 3, right? That would be my assumption. Would be he's the lowest owned of all 3. I would definitely take a shot on a guy who is definitely better than an 0 for 6 shooter.
I'll tell you right now. What are we? We're looking at the
Gordon
here. Gordon and who?
Gordon, Okogie, Allen.
So Allen is fractional points ahead of Okogie. Gordon is well above both of them.
Like, good GPP pivot is taking the guy who went 0 for 6 but was starting, who is there to space the floor, right? Grayson Allen was a 41% shooter from 3 last year.
My guess is Allen gets a little bit of the bump because he's $500 cheaper on DraftKings.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And he has better eligibility than Okogie too.
Mm-hmm. Someone that, again, you and I talked about this on the DFS preview show here today. Brandon mentioned it, and now IC3 is mentioning it. Paul Reed. We talked about it on the show this morning. We do think there's some merit to playing Paul Reed here this evening. Again, back up big for Philly. Brandon brings up the fact that maybe there's some really foul trouble going up against Giannis, or as we've seen, like, are they going to play Joel Embiid 38 minutes opening night? Probably not. So Reed could still come off the bench, maybe get a 20-minute role, 21 minutes, 22 minutes, and a guy that's always been a pretty productive guy right away, off the floor. You look at Milwaukee and sort of their depth at the center position. If he gets matched up with like a Bobby Portis or something like that, could be a favorable spot here for Reed at $3,600. And if you go to our rostership percentages again, we got him coming in around like 25, 26%. So it feels like a punt play that most people are maybe getting to here this evening.
Yeah, I don't hate the Paul Reed thing. And he was actually taking threes in the preseason. He took a couple 3-point shots, which I think they kind of need him to. He didn't make any, but he was taking a few threes. I think it makes sense because the spacing, if Paul Reed's going to play next to Joel Embiid, they need spacing, right? And I know Embiid can stretch the floor, but more often than not, that makes it clunky if both of them are on the floor together.
Well, that was the Al Horford Joel Embiid problem, is that Horford was stretching the floor, but he was kind of still a misplaced player playing next to him. So
right, and you kind of see it with Boston now, right? It's like they decided, let's not do this Porzingis Horford thing. We'll play one off the bench and one starting, because that's just kind of, I think, that's just the modern NBA. So I don't dislike Reed. I have no problem getting to him at 3,600.
Again, we're talking about a 2-game slate, so there's going to be players here that you're going to find and try to fit into a lineup and hope today is Moses Moody or Dario Saric or something like that, where they come off the bench, play a limited role, but are just like uber effective, uber efficient with their minutes off the bench there to kind of help you give a little bit of a leg up. Anybody else here, like Drew Eubanks at $3,900? Any interest here for the backup center for Phoenix?
Is Eubanks power forward eligible, or you moved on to center?
Center only.
Yeah, I don't hate Eubanks. I think this is a more affordable price. Like, he was $4,800.
4, 7, 2, and 3 in that game. So
yeah, I mean, like, I would rather play him at 39 than 47 than I did. Sure, I don't hate it. Maybe a couple guys that might have been just kind of glossed over. I think Toby is a little safe, small forward, power forward. He's going to start. He's going to play big minutes. He's playing big minutes in the preseason. No surprise, Nick Nurse led team.
Nick Nurse plays everybody.
And no James Harden, right? So I don't hate Tobias Harris. We didn't really. Bobby Poe is someone who's going to play 20-something minutes off the bench, and we know he's a massively high fantasy point per minute guy. We don't know the Middleton minutes. If we get word that the bump is like 12 to like 16, because he played 12 minutes in that final preseason game. If it's 16, they gave Jay Crowder 25 minutes in that final preseason game. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I love Jay Crowder, but he's another guy that can space the floor. He's a decent rebounder. Good defensive player. He'll be negatively owned. It's another one of these like Crowder, Reed, Watanabe value shots. I would group them all probably together.
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind. Again, another guy that you're probably just going to throw some darts in. You look at these players that are priced around the same price tag as the Phoenix value, and that's where your pivots come into play, right? Because like nobody is playing those guys here tonight. Torian Prince only 20%. Jay Crowder, I think, is even less than that. Crowder coming in at 1%. So again, we'll get some updates for everybody here right before roster lock on some of these numbers. But with everybody focusing in on the Phoenix value, especially when they have, so do we talk about that goated positional eligibility shooting guard, small forward? Gordon and Allen and Okogie are just getting a lot more love here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we have to navigate. So let's see. 4 of the top 5 projected owned players are Phoenix. There's 7 in the top 11 overall. So you really comes down to, if you're playing cash games, you're stacking Phoenix. It is what it is. But if you're playing tournaments and you want to differentiate, I think there are definitely pivots. Like D'Anthony Melton's 30%. That's not highly owned. It's not low owned, but that's a solid pivot, as we mentioned. There's some Lakers value. John, what do you make of this? We didn't talk Taurean Prince or really give him much love. Sure. I'm kind of surprised, and I think people are more so thinking well, Taurean Prince not gonna go 6 for 8 again, but only 22% of the field getting to him for 4.3K. He was arguably the Lakers' best player offensively the other night. I know LeBron probably takes the cake there, but 4 for 6 from 3. I mean, again, I don't expect him, and this is kind of why I told you night one, I was fading Taurean Prince, because that's the only scenario I get beat by Taurean Prince. If he goes 6 for 8 shooting, he's not a high usage guy. He didn't really produce in other categories. Would you go back to Taurean Prince 22% or at 22% projected, or are you off?
No, I mean, I think it makes for a pivot. The one thing we'll say about Taurean Prince is he's going to get some open looks because defenses aren't focusing on him, right? And that was what he just knocked down open shots. So if LeBron's going to drive and kick and Taurean Prince is going to be there to take those shots, that's fine. But he's got to go 6 for 8, 4 for 6 to kind of pop off there, especially again on a night where a lot of other people are playing those Suns players. And we do talk on a 2-game slate. The ceiling you need on a 2-game slate necessarily isn't the same ceiling that you need here. On a larger slate. So a guy like Brandon saying, Harris has no value at 66. Listen, I agree. Most people aren't going to be playing Tobias Harris tonight. They're going to be playing some of the cheaper guys and a power forward we've already established. A lot of people going Durant. You're going to see some Giannis exposure there. No one's really playing LeBron James. Nobody's really playing Tobias Harris, but Tobias Harris is going to play. We expect with a Nick Nurse offense play more minutes than he's really played in the past consistently. And if he gives you 25 or 30 fantasy points tonight, it could still be enough on a floor level on a 2-game slate because there aren't as many guys that can get you that ceiling. Now, price discrepancy, I'm not going to play Tobias Harris if I can't then afford Giannis or Embiid or something like that. No, of course I'll pivot down, but I'm not going to sit here and say that 25, 30 fantasy points is achievable by everybody on the slate. So
what if I told you, John, and this is to Brandon as well, what if I told you that without James Harden last year, Tobias averaged 1.1 fantasy points a minute, or a tick under 1.1 fantasy points a minute? So I'm not saying I would play Tobias Harris on most nights at $6,600. I think that's too high of a price. But the safety you get with minutes are 100% there because he's going to play 35 minutes. He literally played 30 minutes in his final preseason game. He's been ramped up, and we've seen multiple teams like Boston who ramped up their players in the preseason. Jason Tatum played 39 minutes last night. So, he was game ready for that, though, right? Because the preseason.
Yeah.
Philly did the same thing with Tobias Harris and the rest of their team, fully ramped up. And you sit here and say that they are a decent front court defensive team. Chris Middleton's going to be limited. Brook Lopez is 36 years old. And yes, Giannis is good. But how many times is Giannis going to be matched up with Tobias Harris, especially? I don't see it happening. The backcourt is a bad defensive unit. I think the bigs are going to have to make up for a lot of that. Yeah. Losing Drew Holiday, now you have your starting backcourt as Malik Beasley and Drew or Dame Lillard. That defensive team that was a top defensive team is not the same team. So we can sit here and say that yes, they have been one of the best defensive units in basketball. A lot of question marks on that end of the floor this year because when your guards can't guard there's going to be a lot of situations where your bigs have to collapse and there's a lot of open shooters. And I think that benefits Tobias Harris because he's another guy who can stretch the floor. So on a 2-game slate, on a guy who shot 38% from 3 last year, if you're telling me Joel Embiid, very good passer, Tyrese Maxey, very good passer, are driving and kicking to a guy 38% from 3, sign me up because he's going to play 35 minutes and no one's going to play him. So again, like, we can sit here and say all this stuff about Tobias Harris not having a floor or not having a ceiling. What if he goes for 40? That's a ceiling on a 2-game slate where no one's going to have him. So
the key factors are really it's a 2-game slate.
Yep.
And you have to adjust sort of the mindset of what the scores are going to be tonight, right?
Correct.
Like these aren't matchups where we're expecting it really to be barn burners scoring wise. I mean, I think Philly, Milwaukee, it's not going to be a 270 pace game here. It's going to be tough defensively. You're going to have some clear, obvious scoring guys here on the floor, but it's just that there's not going to be too much, I don't think, when it comes to ceilings and floors for certain players. So, and Brandon's saying Dame didn't play any defense in Portland, but he'll play in Milwaukee. I mean, sure, but to an extent, I mean, he's not a great defensive player as a whole, as a skill set. Yeah. Kyrie Irving has upped his defensive ability at times, but not consistently enough that you consider Kyrie Irving to be a good defensive player. He's just not that type of guy. So, and he's not going to shut down, Maxey tonight on the defensive side of the floor. So, no, I don't really prescribe to Dame being a great defensive player here.
No.
James, got a couple more minutes here left in the show, guys. If you do have any questions, whether it pertains to DraftKings, FanDuel, prop bets, prop picks, anything you got here, Underdog, feel free to go ahead and throw those in chat. We are more than happy to break those down for you all. Any other specific players, matchups, or scenarios you're looking at here, James, tonight?
I think like in terms of news, obviously we need to know what Chris Middleton's going to play because it was 12 minutes in the final preseason game. The knee is obviously a concern. There's still no reports on what that extension. Now, Adrian Griffin said he's going to extend him, but what is that extension, right? Other things, it's just I think my mindset going into this slate is I'm okay getting to Phoenix value tonight. Perfectly fine with it. But I also don't want to overlook other value because on a 2-game slate, you do need to take shots somewhere. And the field's mindset is Phoenix, Phoenix, Phoenix. Where can we differentiate tonight? I think Philadelphia has some good differentiators. We know Nick Nurse is going to play his top 7, maybe top 8, a whole bunch of minutes. He does every time he's ever coached a game. That's seemingly the case. And I think Milwaukee is a little bit interesting. Obviously the Embiid versus Giannis discussion is something to be had too. What about you, John? What's a storyline you're looking at going into tonight?
I mean, I think LeBron is kind of interesting because we're all really concerned about the minutes limit that he has been placed on. But you're also now looking at the matchup for LeBron in this game. Can he do enough in 29 minutes to make him a pivot in your tournament lineups? It's not that LeBron is hurt, right? They're just monitoring him to kind of ramp him up. For the start of the season, he played 29 minutes. He was 10 of 16 from the floor, 8 rebounds, 5 assists in that game, 21 points. He was LeBron James. If you gave him another 6 minutes, those numbers would have been 30, 12, and 7, So the production was on par for what we expect out of LeBron James on a per minute basis. It's just whether or not, we can expect him maybe in this matchup. This isn't the Denver Nuggets. This is Phoenix that is, severely down in terms of their depth and talent that they're going to be putting in that starting lineup outside of Kevin Durant here. Do we think LeBron can be a GPP pivot here tonight?
I'm probably not getting there personally, but I understand it because it is LeBron James. I don't have anything against him, and getting to him I think is fine. Almost 30% rostership. I would say I am definitely more intrigued in tournaments that Anthony Davis is 7%. And obviously, like a lot goes into that. Davis is has one position eligibility at a position where Giannis, Embiid, and Nurkic exist, and I think that's why it's 7%. And also LeBron has multi-position eligibility. That's why he's 3x or 4x Davis's ownership. I just feel like Davis has more upside than LeBron, just given how dominant he can be defensively. And not to say LeBron can't be, but we obviously have seen it more consistently with Davis over the past couple of years. I mean, 3.4 blocks and steals combined last year for Anthony Davis is absurd for a big man. I mean, so I would say, like, I'm not totally opposed to getting to LeBron. I do lean, like, if you're talking strictly Davis or LeBron in tournaments, I do lean Davis, especially for the owner. Like I told you before the season, like, I'm trying not to let ownership sway my judgment on how I view a slate, because I think you can take ownership however way you want, but sometimes you have something in the back of your mind. You're like, shoot, man, I'm not playing this player because he's 50%, and now but I have to get him in, and that player does. Evan Mobley was that guy for me last night, where, not to say I let it creep in, but I knew, I'm like, Evan Mobley's in a great spot. I know this field's going to be on him. I got to get him in, and he let me down. And I'm not saying I disagree with the reasoning behind Evan Mobley, yeah. So I like Davis at a low ownership.
Yeah, Jonathan Davis being 8.8 on this matchup is wild. I agree. I'm in on it. Let me get your take quickly. We're talking LeBron James. I just went over to Underdog Fantasy. Check out some pick-up props today. Right now, their boosted 25x prop here is LeBron James, 12.5 rebounds and assists. He went over this. He had 13 in night one. Do we think we go over the 12.5 rebounds and assists prop here this evening?
Probably. I mean, here's the thing. Anthony Davis didn't get a rebound until like 1 minute in the second quarter.
Right.
1 minute left in the second quarter. And, obviously that helps LeBron early in the game. Austin Reeves kind of out of his mind with his points or rebounds, assist prop. I'll say a slight lean on the over, but ever so slightly.
Sure. Stacks in the chat saying, what's up, guys? Happy to
Stacks?
have all of you in here already. I'll throw a quick promo out there if you guys haven't already done so. We got a great promo going on at Fantasy Alarm right now. You get the All-Pro package annual subscription. It's less than $16 a month. If you go month to month with us, it's almost $40 a month. If you buy it for the year right now, you get it for less than $16. Gives you access to all of our premium DFS content. Last week in NFL, we absolutely crushed it. We had multiple winners of thousands of dollars. Myself, Dan Malin won $5,000. Some lifetime subscribers won a handful of thousands of dollars as well. So scan the QR code, go to fantasystorm.com/lock, promo code LOCK, take advantage of that all-pro offer we got going on here today. James, let's build some lineups before we get out of here for the folks here. How does that feel?
Hell yeah.
All right, let's pull up the thing. Point guard. All right, are we just eating the chalk here with Durant, power forward?
Yeah, I was gonna say we should do like a chalky Phoenix build, and then try to do something where
I think consensus for us was Maxey Durant, right?
I would say Goodwin, probably Goodwin at the guard spot.
Can we move Maxey to the 2 then? Probably Maxey to the 2, Goodwin to the point guard position here. 6K, small forward, center, guard, forward, util. Obviously, there's a lot of value. So let's talk center here. Did we want to go Embiid, Giannis, AD? Do we, we got to probably get exposure to a Giannis or Embiid, I would imagine here this evening.
So 222 minutes with Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey on the floor. No James Harden. Take a stab at Joel Embiid's fantasy point per minute average last year.
4.5.
4.5 per minute? Are you out of your mind?
What is
That's like 8,000 fantasy points. 1.75. So like, yeah.
Well, we've had some crazy.
No, I know, but 4.5. Think about that, like of her 30-minute span. 150 fantasy points.
All right, so we got JoJo then. 5K, small forward, guard, forward, utility. This is where we plug in. I actually want to plug in Reeves here. So 4,800 guard, forward, utility.
I mean, So, like, I like their Gordon play. You could play it forward. I like the Melton play here, 5,300. You could play it guard. So this is probably where. So this is where this build I would like to go Giannis, almost, because we're playing Maxey Melton. But if we wanted to go Embiid, we could.
No, that's fine. We can listen. This is a 2-game GBP slate, so you're gonna mix and match however you want. Gives us $4,900 to play with this kind of build here. We'd probably plug in a Kogi at that point. With $200 left over. Gives us 4 Phoenix, 2 Philly, a Laker, and a Buck. If we were to kind of go in that direction. Again, we do like Anthony Davis, we think is a tournament play here tonight. We've talked. Nobody's really playing Dame Lillard this evening as well, according to current rostership projection. So, Philly's defense here probably going to have D'Anthony Melton guarding him, as good of a defender that he is. But, just an example lineup for the folks at home. If you guys got different lineup builds, feel free to throw them in chat. James, how else do we think we can differentiate from what is probably going to be a very chalky lineup that we just put together here?
Yeah, that's definitely a chalky cash lineup. I would say you could probably use that any format you want. Take a picture of it, throw it in your 50-50s. So I'm toying with a Davis util line. The only problem is I don't have I played. So like if you're playing Davis, you're basically making a decision. I went
Durant, or you're playing? Are you taking out?
I went Nurkic, and I kept Durant. That's basically the decision. Like you're pivoting off of Durant, or you're playing Durant and then going Nurkic, and then you're pivoting off of probably some Philly value somewhere, right? Like, or some Phoenix value, excuse me. Like,
there's $200 left here. I still like Reeves here tonight. We didn't really go in deep on Reeves, but I do like Austin Reeves this evening.
I agree. Fully agree.
Lesser matchups for him here. Again, I don't really want to get off of Maxey. I think he's a core lock-in for me. You do this, you're just without obviously the top 2 price plays on the slate. So
let's try this out. Ready? We'll take a look at this. This is an Embiid Giannis-less build.
I thought you were about to say this is an Embiid Giannis build, and I was excited.
No, but we can obviously try that too. We still have about 6 minutes left of the show. Goodwin Maxey. So I kept Maxey in here. I pivoted to Grayson Allen because I think again he's a lot less owned than Eric Gordon, and I think Grayson Allen is not going to go for 6 again. Durant, Nurkic. So we're just fully sacking Phoenix, being a little different, I think, with Grayson Allen. Oubre, Reeves, Davis was how I finished this build. And now again, this is just toying with builds. This is kind of what it looks like with Anthony Davis, I think. Like, unless you pivot off Durant in this case, right, and you play Giannis or Embiid.
Well, that would be the thing, right? If you think that LA Phoenix blows out and Durant just ends up taking a bench here tonight at some point, fading the 90% roster play, but I just feel like even in a blowout, he still gets it done in 3 quarters.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, in that scenario, are we playing Davis at 8,800 because there's a blowout? Is he playing in the 4th quarter? So just throwing it out there.
It's our Giannis and Embiid build.
I was gonna say, you want to play with one?
Play.
Yeah. So good win.
It's gonna be Goodwin, obviously.
Yep.
Shooting guard, we'll go Gordon. Small forward. Believe it or not, I got plenty of money to still do this. Guard spot. Can we fit Maxey? 4,400 for forward in the util.
Yuta?
Go all the way down? Yuta?
Yeah. Yuta's played 18 minutes in the debut. They can, like, what if a scenario plays out where, Durant moves up to the 3, if Grayson Allen's not shooting well again, like there's a world where Yuta's playing 20 minutes tonight.
Sure. Well, we got a Yuta Melton line here. You got Goodwin, Gordon, Reeves, Giannis, Embiid, Maxey, Yuta, and Melton. What was Paul Reed at? What was his price?
30. You could play him over Yuta, I think. Maybe $100 off.
$100 off. So if we wanted to double up the bigs, I guess for Philly, Not a general strategy we've taken.
No, not the best.
Let's just see how crazy we can get here. 4,300 Durant, Giannis, Embiid. I mean, that's
you'd have to play.
Throw Yuta back in there.
We're throwing Yuta back in.
We got a 48.50 for a small forward and a guard. I mean,
Grayson.
41. Oh, we're so close to just throwing Grayson. Could go Gabe Vincent there if we went Reeves. Grayson at 42. Does he play shooting guard, small forward? He does, but that doesn't really help us much. Actually, it would open a small forward spot, but $5,500. I mean, just play D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, he's. I said this on opening night. And Reeves ended up being the better play overall. Basically took the same amount of shots, but he had last year with Davis.
5 Phoenix deal. Will they let us use 5 Phoenix deal?
Yeah.
It's probably the max, I think, right?
With LeBron and Davis, Russell averaged a higher fantasy point per minute output than Reeves, so maybe something to consider.
Yeah. So again, if you want to go superstars and scrubby, it's definitely doable with all this Phoenix value tonight.
Yep.
Again, getting Durant, Embiid, and Giannis in the lineup really wasn't all that challenging. And you can make some other pivots. Like I said, if you thought maybe Vincent gets out in a blowout spot, could certainly pivot off of him to there. Does that give us our guy 6K? Could give you Oubre at small forward. Could give you Austin Reeves at small forward if you like the build there.
John, Bucks coach Adrian Griffin declines to say what Chris Middleton's minutes will be tonight.
Not sure.
So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff indeed. So, guys, again, these are just a couple example lineups. Obviously, it's a 2-game slate, so you can get creative, you can get different. We consider these lottery ticket slates. Don't dive in and spend your entire bankroll here on a 2-game slate. We have a big slate on Friday. Our guy James is going to be writing up the playbook, so make sure you check that all out. And again, one last time before we sign up for the evening here, if you haven't already signed up for the Fantasy Alarm All Pro package, now is your time. You can scan the QR code on the screen or go to fantasyalarm.com/lock. Use promo code LOCK. You get our annual subscription package for less than $16 a month, and that gives you access to all of our premium content for all the sports that we do on our site that's behind the paywall. Get access to our lineup generator, access to our ownership projections, our daily projections, everything that is behind the paywall you get access to, and our premium Discord. Myself is in there. Grande is in there. Sean Mitchell is in our premium Discord channels. We talk to you throughout the day, give you updated news, lineup advice, you name it. We're covering it in our Discord. So again, scan the QR code here on the screen. Go to fantasyalarm.com/lock. Check it all out. What we got going on here at Fantasy Alarm. For now, though, James and I will be back tomorrow. Again, pre-show. We'll be live in the morning. We'll be back here 5 o'clock Eastern time, giving you everything you guys need to do to dominate your Friday slate heading into the weekend. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Good luck.